Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Virtual Executive Director Podcast. My name is Becky Caldwell, and I'm your host. I'm an executive coach for mission-driven leaders, and I serve as the actual, in real life, executive director for the Virginia Highlands Festival in Abingdon, Virginia. This week on the podcast, I'm doing a practical episode this week because, hey, I've done a lot of deep work, deep healing, deep thoughts, podcast episodes lately. And so I want to switch it up and do something really practical that's easy to execute on and helpful for all of us in leadership positions. And that topic is Zoom meetings. Zoom meetings. We are all using Zoom or some variation of it, but I'm going to guess that most of us are actually using Zoom for our meetings right now. And I have 7 practical tips for you. And look, you may feel like you are an expert on Zoom already. I encourage you to still listen because there may be a few tips that surprise you. Let me encourage you to share this episode with your team and or your, if you are a nonprofit leader, share it with your board so that they also know how to maximize their Zoom experience. And that way, that saves you the time from having to instruct each of them one by one. You know, let me do it for you is what I'm saying. Okay, let's launch into these 7 practical tips for using Zoom. Number 1, how to mute and unmute if you called in on your phone. So a lot of us may have to call in on our phones, and that can get awkward with background noise. So here's how you mute and unmute if you called on your phone. *6. *6 will unmute you. *6 will then remute you. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, how to not look like Jabba the Hutt on your calls. Set your phone or your webcam slightly above eye level if you don't want all the chins. If you don't care about all the chins, leave the phone sitting on your tabletop or your lap. That's fine. Or you could also just turn off video completely, because video can slow down if you have a weak connection. The video can slow down your connection. So feel free to turn video off completely. Okay, tip number 3, speaking of video, how to choose a Zoom background or how to change your Zoom background. Now, first of all, this is for desktop only. It does not work on your phone. And in fact, there will not be a different background. If you set it up on your desktop, there won't be a different background on your phone. So just know that wherever you're phoning in from, if you're using the app and have your video on, you don't have the benefit of a Zoom background. But if you are on your desktop, here's where you find it. Go down to the lower left-hand corner where the video camera is. And to the right of that is a little up arrow. Click on the up arrow, and one of the options is choose virtual background. So you click on choose virtual background, and a new screen will pop up, and you'll see yourself in a small window. And then just below yourself, you'll see choose virtual background. There may or may not be some things in there already. If there aren't, click the plus sign, which is to the right of where it says choose virtual background. Click the plus sign. That's how you add an image or a video background. And then you click one of those, let's say add image. And then you find a picture of what you want to be your background. Select it, then click open. And boom, your background is different immediately. Kind of cool. And then you just close out the screen, just close out using the little X in the upper right-hand corner of that pop-up window. and you've got your new background all set. So that is how to change your background. Tip number 4. Let's say you are in a meeting or about to go into your meeting, and or maybe you're in the middle of your meeting and someone says something and you feel frustrated or you feel the need to discipline them in some way. Don't do it right there in the middle of the meeting with everybody else. Discipline them or express your frustration with them in private, either before or after the meeting. Do it quickly. Do it with kindness and empathy, because we are all on a little bit of a short fuse right now. So take that sacred breath and set a time. You can always say, "Hey, so-and-so, can you stick around after everyone else logs out?" Or you can set a time to meet with them either, before the next meeting. But that's how you communicate your frustration or discipline someone in a Zoom meeting. Number 5, how to respond when someone asks if you're available for another Zoom meeting. You say this: let me check my calendar and get back to you. Now, yes, you're on your computer or you're on your phone, and you could check your calendar right then. But if you need to, just make up someone else you need to check with. Or maybe you can't access your calendar quickly, or, oh my gosh, every time I try and check my calendar when I'm on Zoom, it freezes my screen. I don't know what's happening, but let me just check my calendar and get back to you. What this does is it creates a little space for you to really decide whether or not you want that meeting. Because I think we've learned a lot of meetings could be emails, or a lot of meetings could be short. You don't have to, just because you set aside the time to hop on Zoom, doesn't mean you need to spend an hour on Zoom with this person. So just say, "Hey, let me check my calendar and I'll get back to you." And by the way, when you check your calendar, just because you have open space doesn't mean you have to fill it with something. Okay. Number 6, how to make decisions in your Zoom meeting, especially in a time of uncertainty like this. So we're having meetings because we need to decide some things, right? Here is my advice on how to make decisions. If it's not a hell yes, then it's a hell no. If it's not a hell yes in your gut, it's a hell no. Okay, that may be oversimplistic. That's okay. I have a little bit more of a complex answer for you too. So if more thought needs to go into it, into your complex decision making, here's what I'm going to suggest to you. Every decision you make takes you closer to your purpose, regardless of how obvious that might be. So take a sec right now and think about everything you've done that has led you to this point in your leadership. Everything you've done, even the things that didn't seem to make sense, or that seemed like a detour, or you thought maybe in the moment, I'm never going to use this. And then you found maybe even yesterday you ended up using that very skill, or that putting into practice that very lesson that you learned. Everything contributes in some way to who you are now and to who you will be in the future. So you can take the pressure off any decisions that you need to make, and know that whatever you decide is right. And tip number 7, how to eliminate background noise. Because I'm sure we get a lot of, I know I have a lot of dogs barking in mine. So here's how you eliminate your background noise. Frankly, just mute your mic, and then you can press the space bar whenever you want to speak. You don't have to figure out how to unmute your mic. So if you are, this is only on desktop, obviously, because you don't have a space bar in the phone app, but just mute your mic, keep it muted. That way, whatever happens in the background of where you are, people don't hear it. and you can just press the space bar when you're ready to talk. Well, I hope these tips have been helpful. And like I said, please just go ahead and share this with your team and with whoever might need these tips, these helpful tips for Zoom meetings. It has been my great pleasure to bring these to you. I love practical. I'm a practical, concrete, what does this look like kind of person. And when I spend too much time in the theoretical, I kind of lose my tether with reality. So here we are, practical tips for Zoom meetings. Thank you for all the work you're doing right now to make our world a better place, whether you work in nonprofit, whether you are in for-profit, you have a B Corp or some other purpose-driven business. I appreciate you and the work that you're doing to keep us as a society and a civilization moving forward and being the best that we all know we can be. I would love to share your tips for Zoom meetings in an upcoming episode. Please email them to me, Becky@virtualexecutivedirector.com, or connect with me on one of the social apps that are linked in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next week. Remember, we shine brighter together.